If you personally don't do illicit drugs but are a good and a well-meaning person and you're interested in what you can still do to help reduce drug harms, I have 7 things in time for May 7th, International Harm Reduction Day. 1. The easiest thing you can do is just not add to the stigma. Stigma around drugs makes people less likely to seek support from friends, family, and health practitioners because they feel like they're going to be judged or blamed. This advice applies both in real life and online in comment sections. Specifically, you should avoid describing people based on their personal choices. Words like addict and user have loaded ideas behind them and come with a lot of stigma. Also, don't announce that you think people should just not do drugs. Firstly, saying this doesn't convince anyone. Humans have consumed psychoactive drugs since the Stone Age, and they do it because there is an intended psychoactive effect. If you voice this opinion to just not, it comes with implications that people who still do deserve any degree of unintended harms. It marks you as an unsafe person to talk to, and it tells strangers that there are judgmental people around. If you're in any doubt, you can just listen and learn in these conversations. 2. Understand that legal differences don't always correlate with harm potential. In theory, drugs get put on the naughty list because they have low potential for therapeutic use and high potential for abuse, but in reality they are there because of the opinions of a handful of known racist people throughout history, many with very questionable motivations, and subsequent international peer pressure to copy-paste these same laws everywhere. Today, we have sufficient research and evidence to create policies that prevent harm and protect human rights, but prohibition of particular substances has been the norm for so long that it is now a significant challenge to convince society that there are better alternatives.
Hot take, there's no moral difference between someone who takes legal recreational drugs versus illegal ones. We just happen to live in a time period of prohibition and some people are more willing to take on that extra legal risk.
Number 3. It is helpful to know that the majority of people who do illicit drugs do so only occasionally and don't develop a dependency. Abstinence-only drug education paints this picture that if you try any drug, it will lead you to addiction down a slippery slope and that it will totally take over your life. While this does happen to some people, most people who choose to take drugs live a financially, socially, and physically healthy life. These differences are also observed with legal drugs like alcohol. Most people can have a social drink every now and then, but a few people develop a dependency. 4. Understand that many drug harms that we know of are a result of prohibition rather than the drug itself. Unregulated markets mean that consumers have zero guarantees over the quality, dose, and even the precise substance that they have purchased. Many drug harm incidents are a result of incorrectly dosing due to actually having a different substance than was thought. Prohibition also leads to the development of more and more potent substances due to sellers trying to maximize profit for the risk they take in getting caught. During alcohol prohibition, this meant beer became spirits, became moonshine, while today we see this in heroin becoming fentanyl, becoming nitazines. Potent drugs are a lot harder to dose correctly. Finally, legal punishment itself causes significant harm and permanent impacts to a person's life. Convictions of simple possession here in Aotearoa can and have been sentenced with fines, community service, home detention, and imprisonment. If people are worried that someone under the influence is going to cause harm to another person or property, we already have laws that cover those things. It doesn't make sense to have preemptive criminalization just based off of what people choose to put into their own bodies. 5. Promote the harm reduction philosophy. This philosophy is about reducing risk, not expecting to eliminate risk entirely, and not trying to pressure people into making particular decisions. This allows people to not feel judged and access information and advice that will help them avoid preventable harms. Promoting harm reduction can include encouraging friends and whānau to get their drugs checked and seek evidence-based information, just like encouraging them to put their seatbelts on. 6. Know how to support a friend. The first step is going to be to educate yourself about general harm reduction tips and also about whatever drug is specific to the situation. Best thing you can do is demonstrate that you're a safe person to talk to by being open-minded, non-judgmental, and supportive when it comes to discussing drugs. Also remember, they are the same person that you knew before you found out that they do drugs, so there's no need to treat them any differently. Regular supportive friend stuff like hanging out and spending time together can reduce stress and loneliness, which is good for anyone's well-being in general. And number 7, be curious about any legal drugs you do take. Do you know what the long-term health risks are? Do you know what dose you normally take? Do you know what signs of dependency there are to look out for? Reducing drug harms doesn't always mean helping other people. Sometimes it starts with yourself. If you're interested in policy reform, the Harm Reduction Coalition Aotearoa is launching on May 7th and they focus on exactly this. You can give them a follow on Twitter or LinkedIn.